Outcome based education is the very popularly, frequently, repeatedly used in the education sector in many parts of the country as well as the world. So let us understand briefly what is outcome based education, which is popularly called as OBE, outcome based education. If you look at one picture here that depicts that there are some components like curriculum, accreditation requirement, industry, continuously improvement, standard of education. So OBE framework ensures if the OBE is implemented successfully, the curriculum gets updated, revised time to time as per the requirement of industry and also as per the needs that can bring appropriate knowledge, skill, and values in the students. Number two, accreditation requirement. Most of the accreditation agencies are asking the academic organizations, universities, and institutes going for OBE based accreditation. We'll understand what is OBE based accreditation. The industry requirement is changing, the requirements are evolving, you know, the the expectation from the graduates are all changing now in terms of especially the skill set and then appropriate knowledge. Continuous improvement is the most important feature of OBE. Outcome based education ensures that there will be always monitoring of quality and assessment, and based on assessment and feedback, continuous improvement will be there. And the most importantly, the standard of education, the quality of education, the quality of research, which is being imparted through teaching learning processes, teaching learning mechanisms in academic institutes, will be also assessed so that we can also understand ranking of different universities and institutes all across the world based on the standard of education which is being imparted or being delivered by the university. Why OBE? This picture is really very interesting. For fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. You can understand the, you know, the significance of this picture. There are different types of animals, and the interviewer, this is just a picture which is depicting the importance of OBE. It means there are different capabilities in all different students, different learners, and those abilities, yeah, you are evaluating by the same yardstick, same mechanism, same method. No flexibility is there. So based on skill set, based on the abilities, assessment has to be aligned, and there the OBE plays significant role. Like here, you know, everybody may be genius, everybody may be intelligent, but there may be a difference in terms of specific abilities, specific aptitude, and the skill set. And you have to use multiple methods in order to find the number of skill sets, appropriate knowledge in all the candidates. So this is the requirement of OBE. So in a teacher-centric education, what happens? In the teacher-centric, there will be a standard mechanism of evaluation using some standard tools and methods that will not differentiate much between the abilities of the two candidates. So this diagram actually highlights the complete framework of OBE. When we say outcome-based education, it focuses on outcomes. What is outcome? Will be outcomes, objectives, mapping, whatever terminologies have been used here, they will be discussed in next lectures in detail. So what do we mean by outcome? When a student completes a course, you know, and at the end of course, student is expected to acquire some knowledge, expected to demonstrate some knowledge, demonstrate some skill set, and demonstrate some values as well. That is called as course outcome. We know that in a program, say at undergraduate, postgraduate, master or doctoral level, there will be a number of courses. So in all the courses, students are expected to demonstrate certain knowledge, skills, and values. That is actually outcome. So outcome has to be assessed very sincerely. If there is, you know, the gap between the outcome and what was the objective set in the beginning of the course or in the beginning of program, that mapping has to be there. And when there is a gap between objective and outcome, that gap has to be reduced by, revising the mechanism, revising and by undergoing a revision in a number of factors related to either teaching learning mechanism, course materials, and many things. We'll discuss all these things in detail. So when you see teaching learning processes which are involved, that includes course syllabus, course curriculum, teaching learning pedagogies, what are the methods we are using, learning processes, then assessment tools. What kind of assessment tool? What are different types of assessment tools? Whether it's a formative assessment or summative assessment, indirect assessment tool or direct assessment tool. So these things are very, very important in the assessment of teaching learning outcome. And if the teaching learning outcome is not appropriate, we may require to revise, modify the teaching pedagogies, even the assessment tool if it is not working. In the similar manner, when you talk about assessment, course program at university, so we have to assess at the level of course, and then course assessment has to be mapped with the program outcome, and then program outcome has to be mapped with a vision and mission statement of the university. Every university has vision and mission statement. So based on vision and mission statement, generally in a university there may be a number of programs. Each program will have its objective aim, and with the knowledge of those objectives, student will be coming, will be joining that program. That wow, these are the things which we are aiming to know, we are aiming to achieve when we do this particular program. But actually program learning outcome will indicate how much they have achieved those objectives. So the actual demonstration of knowledge, skill set, and values at the end of course or at the end of program is the student learning outcome. And here it is program learning outcome. Since we know that under every program there are so many courses, so a number of course learning outcomes will be there under program outcome. And we'll discuss course outcome, program outcome, how to write course outcome, program outcome in detail in its in next lecture. So what is important is we have to write the course outcomes, program outcomes, and their objectives very, very sincerely. And whenever we write these outcomes and objectives, that is not a simple process. We have to involve all the stakeholders like employers, industries, parents, alumni, students, teachers, and so on. All the stakeholders need to sit on a common platform and have to determine, have to articulate that these are the objectives of the programs which are being offered in this university. So the learning outcomes, learning activities, learning assessments, so the improvement can take place either in learning activities or the assessment tool, even if the outcomes are not measurable. We'll discuss in detail in next lectures. Objectives and outcomes when we write need to be always smart outcomes, specific, measurable, achievable, result oriented, and time bound. So all those outcomes must be measurable. Something which is not measurable is included as the outcome, can be revised and can be modified. So this is actually the OBE framework, where you plan, where you implement, where you evaluate, and you act. And based on the feedback and the evaluation, you either revise or take some remedial measures, so that there is a mapping between outcomes and objectives, and that mapping is a is an indication of the demonstration of students. The students are demonstrating the good amount of knowledge, appropriate skill set, and the values. Of course, values we'll be discussing in the next lectures related to environmental issues, social issues, human values, ethical values, and so on. There are many other factors, because ultimately the graduates who are going to the industry, in the workforce, they are going to contribute for the social development, for the society. So therefore there are a lot of human values and other values which also need to be there in the students. So whether students have learned those values in addition to the skill set and the knowledge or not, that is also very important. So what is the benefit of OBE? It brings clarity among teachers and students. How does it bring that? It articulates program outcomes and objectives. So students before joining, they know that what I'm going to achieve, what I'm going to attain. And even teachers know that this is how they're required to align the objectives with the outcome. This is how they are required to assess the programs. Every student gets flexibility and freedom of learning. What courses students want to, take, they're free to take those courses. So that choice based, freedom based, flexible kind of learning is there, that is facilitated by OBE. Multiple methods of learning. There is no only, not a single tool, single method by which you can evaluate the learning outcome or learning impact in the student. There will be multiple. We have seen an interesting picture in the beginning that when you evaluate by one yardstick to all the students having different kinds of abilities and skill set, it is very difficult. So there may be multiple methods: clarity, flexibility, comparison, and involvement. So you can compare students with others as well, that how much one is demonstrating these employability or competence in terms of in comparison with others. You can also compare university with other universities based on how the students of a particular university are demonstrating the student learning outcomes in comparison with the student learning outcomes of other universities. And involvement, remember, when you talk about outcome based education, a lot of involvement is needed, of the teachers as well as students, alumni, parents, employers. Everyone has to contribute to make it success. Whenever there is, something which is lacking, whenever there is a gap reported, it has to be brought into knowledge of everyone, by all the stakeholders. Therefore the involvement is so much in the assessment of all the components. Teachers involvement is so much, even in doing a lot of implementing the outcome based education. A lot of assessment tools are there, where in a number of teaching learning processes and pedagogies, students involvements are also very much expected. So this is there where you define the results to be measured. You, in fact, in the beginning, you set certain objectives, identify the data required in sources, you gather the source, resources. You also develop some teaching learning mechanisms and pedagogies, review existing assessment method, then you assess the method, you assess the learning. When there is a need of revision, when there is a need of review, you have to do this. Define additional methods and measures. If we, you know need to even include some new methods or revise some method, we have to do. And then we have to implement so many, methods which are to be used in order to evaluate a performance of it, or a student learning outcome of a student. And this is how continuous improvement cycle will be there. So in the OBE framework, outcome is in the center. When outcome is assessed, when the outcome is not proper, student is not able to exhibit or demonstrate his skill set, knowledge, and values, then we have to go to the, go back, apply certain feedback, apply certain revisions and remedial measures in terms of teaching learning process, curriculum, and so on, and assessment tools, until and unless there is a close mapping between objectives and outcomes, and our students start demonstrating a good skill set, knowledge, and the values. So what is global approach? OBE has been adopted around the world at multiple levels, at the level of UG, PG, master, and doctor level. Like in Australia and South Africa adopted OBE in 1990s to 2000, mid of 2000s, but they abandoned due to the community opposition. There were oppositions from the community. USA adopted completely since 2000. Hong Kong adopted in 2005. Malaysia for public schools, they adopted in 2008. And there is very important, what is called as an agreement, Washington Accord, which was adopted in 1989. This is actually the agreement where a number of countries are signatories. And what does it state? This agreement was, made to accept undergraduate engineering degrees as per OBE. Let's make some framework. Your UG degrees or technical degrees or technical education can be evaluated as per the outcome based education framework. So as of 2017, The full signatories of Washington Accord include Australia, Canada, Taiwan, Hong Kong. India is also as one of the signatory, and India became permanent member of Washington Accord in 2014. Probably we'll see in the later next slide. Ireland, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, Russia, Singapore, and these are the countries which are the signatories of Washington Accord. So in India, as you can see, permanent signatory, permanent member, it became on, as I told you, 2014, 13th of June, it was, it became permanent signatory member, started implementing OBE in higher technical education institutes at diploma in the UG programs. And there is an agency, accreditation agency in India called as NBA, National Board of Accreditation, which started accrediting the programs running in different universities in India as per the OBE framework. And right from 2013, it started doing that. NBA, actually, the National Board of Accreditation, mandates establishing a culture. OBE has to be brought in academic culture as academic culture. So institutions that offer engineering, pharmacy, management programs, and the outcomes analysis, which we do, we analyze the outcomes, we assess the outcomes, and whenever we find certain gap, which is only possible when we analyze the outcomes very sincerely. So gaps are found, and accordingly we carry out continuous improvement. So this is another picture in terms of learning outcomes. So there are a number of learning domains in terms of cognitive domain, affective, and psychometer. So when we talk about student learning outcome, cognitive domain means intellectual capabilities, how much intellect has been acquired by the student, right? In terms of thinking, learning, critical thinking, applying his knowledge into solving some real-time problem. Similarly, affective domain, emotion, behavior, it includes all those abilities with which it can handle any kind of unforeseen situation when they join the workforce. Psychometric or psychomotor is manual and physical skills. A lot of other skill sets are needed. So you can say knowledge, skills, and values. All these are very important, which are considered under cognitive, psychometer, and affective domains of learning domains. So when we say that a student is demonstrating good student learning outcomes, so his learning domain must include all these domains, all these abilities in terms of learning, and that must be demonstrated by the students in terms of very good knowledge, pragmatic knowledge, and then set of skills and some values which are very essential values in practicing as a responsible workforce. So what are the challenges and roadmap? OBE has all abilities, capabilities to transform the education sector and transform the learning experience of students through enhancing the knowledge, skills, and values. And that to on continuous basis, enhancement will take place in terms of knowledge, skills, and values. Assessment problems are always, so there are some difficulties, challenges as well, which are being researched in a continuous manner, which are being discussed continuously. And there are groups, there are agencies who are continuously working in this area to address these challenges related to assessment problem. There are a number of assessment tools. So what are the robust assessment tools that could be used in order to evaluate the performance of the students, so that we can actually be able to evaluate their actual and pragmatic student learning outcomes in a true sense. So that is always the biggest challenge in a OBE framework. Generality, I mean, there is no general purpose approach, there is no general purpose solution, there is no general purpose mechanism. So that is always there. It varies from learner to learner, it varies from teacher to teacher, it varies from one program to other program. So it means there is a program called as, say, undergraduate program in computer science. So the objectives and outcomes and assessment tools for the different courses of that program might not be same with the same program in other university offering the same set of courses. So that generality is missing. Involvement is a serious factor. Where all the stakeholders, huge involvement of teachers and students is needed. Otherwise, OBE doesn't work successfully. So OBE has to be pragmatically implemented. So involvement is needed, assessment tools are to be very good assessment tools, so that assessment is made in a true sense, so that we can actually see the students demonstrating good amount of or good student learning outcomes. So the assessment is very important in OBE, and based on assessment, we can plan, implement, and continuously monitor. And based on continuous monitoring, continuous assessment, the improvement will be always there in the cumulative manner. And therefore, we were saying that summative assessment never works. We have to do formative assessments. It interval of either 1 week, 2 week, or 10 days, 15 days, whatever is good. So at certain interval, student has to be evaluated in terms of on that is using certain assessment tool, and therefore the cumulative improvement will be there, cumulative gain will be there, and continuous improvement is possible. Otherwise, at the end of course, when you evaluate, probably students will not get the opportunities to improve and opportunities to gain what is actually he has lost, what he was supposed to gain through that particular course. And therefore that formative assessment gives all the opportunities to teachers as well as students to recover that loss. Maybe the student, might be the teachers might use different assessment tools, different mechanisms for the students who are, not performing well in the course, and accordingly they can be evaluated and their assessment can be made. So to sum up, outcome based education is a wonderful education framework where the students performance, students learning outcome is evaluated. Why student learning outcome is very important, that indicates the level of competence. And when we say the competence or the employability skill in students, it includes three things, that is appropriate knowledge, specific skill set, and the values. And if these three are there, which could be actually very sincerely assessed, evaluated in a framework called as outcome based education. So in the next lectures, we'll discuss about how to write program outcomes, course outcomes, how to map program outcomes and course outcomes, what are the different assessment tools, how those assessment tools are used in order to map, and finally how to attain the student learning outcome, which is the most and topmost priority of OBE framework, so that the attainment ensures that students who are passing out, students who are completing certain programs, they are becoming the competent graduates demonstrating excellent student learning outcomes. Thank you.